And so it becomes this thing to where it affects all of us. It affected me in my marriage. It's by me hearing Kevin Samuels talk, even for 2 minutes. I've never watched one of his full episodes. Just hearing him 2 or 3 minutes, it made me look at my wife with a side eye. It made me.
You know why that is? You know why it only took 2 or 3 minutes for him to look at his wife with a side eye? Because Kevin Samuels, and here's where definitions matter, right? So let's look up the definition of pander. It says gratify or indulge an immoral, distasteful need or habit, or a person with such a desire. And then at the bottom, it gives an example of what pandering is. It says newspapers are pandering to people's baser instincts. The reason why, you were able to watch just 1 minute of a Kevin Samuels clip and start to look at your wife with a side eye is because he was pandering. And when he panders to you, he is speaking to your baser instincts. He's speaking to that code that is written within you that you don't even know is there. That's not, it's in your subconscious, right? So misogyny, we all know, is a learned ideology. Where men aren't born misogynistic, boys aren't born misogynistic. You have to learn it. It's taught. And it is taught in society. It's insidious because it's in everything. It's everywhere. Everywhere you look, right? So whether you think you're getting it or not, whether you see it on, bubble on the surface or not, it's there. It's inside of you. And sometimes all it takes is for somebody like a Kevin Samuels to trigger it because it's laying there dormant, right? And that is why people like Kevin Samuels are dangerous. And that's why I wish there were more men. And, I think there are a lot of women, but I wish there were more people that were combating these horrible talking points. I don't necessarily believe in censoring people, right? But I do. Well, when it comes to misogynistic content, I actually do believe in censoring misogynistic content because it leads to violence. And that's when it comes to the First Amendment. If you are speaking to things that we all know scientifically can and will lead to violence against a group of people that you don't even know. It's not like, it doesn't matter if you know them personally or not, but it would make more sense if it was like, these people harm me, so I'm going to try to harm them, right? Like that, whatever. And that's a smaller group, I almost guarantee you. It's people that you know. 10,000 people didn't harm you, right? It was probably 2 people, 3 people, right? Whatever. That's still messed up. But when we talk about red pill ideology, and when we talk about like hyper misogynistic content, as such as Kevin Samuels was putting out, that stuff leads to violence against women and children and LGBTQIA folk. So they should be censored, right? I do believe they should be censored. But since they're not, it's going to take more people to speak out against them. It is. It's just that's just what it's going to be. Has to be more of us.
Shift my position from Ephesians 5, love your wife as Christ loved the church, to looking at her like, what are you doing? What are you doing for me? When that right there is, it's not my call. It's my call to love her as Christ loved the church, and then have an expectation that she reciprocates that. But I have to lead as the man, and I have to show that love.
That part right there, that part right there though, that I have to lead, that's all. It's not Kevin Samuels, but it's in the same vein. It's not as dangerous as the Kevin Samuels thing, but just that thought of I'm a man, I need to lead is dangerous. Like it typically leads to that stuff. And you see like how he spoke about it. But the people like Kevin Samuels, people like Tony Gaskins, even, like Tony Gaskins, he's the benevolent misogynist. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Kevin Samuels is the hyper misogynistic dude, right? Straight up 100% pander, without a doubt. Like he knew the shit he was saying was bullshit. He knew it. To me, a person like Tony Gaskins is like, I think he really thinks that because he's religious, right? So that justifies misogyny. That's why, that's another thing that makes it benevolent. A man like Tony Gaskins would believe, like, I mean, it's my job to lead, right? As the man, it's my job to lead. Putting women below men, in the Bible, in these religious texts or whatever, is problematic, and that also leads to the abuse of women. It does. If it's God, man, woman, children, women and children, are beneath men. The man has dominion over women and children. So their needs oftentimes get ignored, don't get met, to say the least. I'm not going to go the extreme route and talk about laying hands and feet on people or, just straight up manipulation. I'm not going to go there. But definitely, like putting people beneath you oftentimes will lead to abuses. That's just the reality. So for me, it's important to clock all of it. And I remember when I have a boy who, he put me on to Kevin Samuels. He was the first dude I knew that listened to Kevin Samuels, right? But way before he even heard Kevin Samuels, he used to tell me, like, that the thing that Tony Gaskins was talking about right here, this part,
it affects all of us. It affected me in my marriage. It's by me hearing Kevin Samuels talk, even for 2 minutes. I've never watched one of his full episodes. Just hearing him 2 or 3 minutes, it made me look at my wife with a side eye. It made me shift my position from Ephesians 5, love your wife as Christ loved the church, to looking at her like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Men will do that. Just so we're clear. Kevin Samuels, he said, was the person that did that for him, which to me just shows how weak-minded men are, right? Like, because I wouldn't, that's crazy. But like I said, I had a buddy way before Kevin Samuels. So my son is 12. He was 1 or 2. So this is 10 years ago, right? Let's call it 10 years ago. I remember talking to him, and I was the breadwinner. I was the, provider, whatever. My wife was at home. She was staying at home with the kids. And I remember I was talking to him, and he was like, man, like, I'm like he wasn't like, if he was just like speaking about it through this lens of like, hey man, I really respect you for being there for your family and showing up for your family in that way, right? I would have took that. That wouldn't have made me look at my wife any sort of way. Because my wife also would say that to me. But it was when he would say stuff like, man, a lot of men wouldn't be able to do that. And man, like, your wife is lucky, man. Like, she, what I'm saying? He started to plant or tried to plant that seed. And he would tell me that. And I remember being like, nah, my wife is dope. Like, nah. I was like, she's doing a lot. Like, I remember responding with that back to him, right? Like, I didn't even know what was going on. I just knew that didn't feel right. That didn't sit with me, right? I didn't want to tell that lie and be like, shit, I'm the man. Like, I couldn't, my conscience wouldn't let me do it, and I'm far and was far from a perfect man in any capacity. But I couldn't let that slide. Like, that just was a bridge too far for me. So I clocked it. I was like, nah, she's dope and da-da-da-da. And he said that to me several times. He said that to me, like, even as recently as like 3 or 4 years ago. And I was like, no, like, by then I had caught on to it. I was just like, no, like I'm lucky, I'm the lucky one to have this woman. So you got to watch that shit as a man. You got to really, really pay attention to that shit. Right. And because that appeals to your baser instinct, to your baser nation, to your baser instincts, your programming, you know what I mean? Like the thing you don't even know is there. It's easy for that to invoke some type of negative response where it'll have you looking at your wife's side eye, like, what you doing for me? And shit, I give me another one of them. Shit, I'm the man now, they're making money. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, easily. So watch that shit, man.
What are you doing for me? When that right there is, it's not my call. it's my call to love her as Christ loved the church, and then have an expectation that she reciprocates that. But I have to lead as the man, and I have to show that love.
This is
100%. I don't know about the leading part, but I love what he said though. Like, you have to give, and you don't have to. You just have to give, and it's like, hey, like if she give it back, great. You know what I'm saying? I'll if she doesn't, if she gives it back, you know what I'm saying, that I want that. But if she doesn't, then we'll address it when it comes up. You know what I mean? Like, but you can't give and then be on some like I don't know, like upset that, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't give and then expect that she's gonna give it back, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like you hope she gives it back or whatever, but there shouldn't be any expectation, if that makes sense. Right?
this is one of the silent things that a lot of men aren't saying out loud. Now, Kevin Samuels, everything he said wasn't bad. He helped a lot of men get their confidence back.
No. Everything he said was bad. And because it was even if in a vacuum you could cherry pick certain things and say, oh, that part was good or whatever. It was all a part of a charade. It was all a ploy. You know what I'm saying? It was all a game. It was all a manipulation tactic. So it was all bad. You got to throw it all out. It was all corrupt at its core. And because the information he would give that you would deem to be good, it wasn't even necessarily good. It just like wasn't bad, but it was very basic shit. And he didn't give men confidence. He gave men entitlement, which when you feel entitled, you have this fake sense of confidence. You have a bravado. It's thinly veiled. There's not much behind it. There's no substance behind it because there's no rationale behind it. So he didn't give men their confidence. He made men bigger assholes. He made men more entitled. And that's what Tony Gaskins was talking about, that it made him feel entitled. So he started to look at his wife like, what have you done for me lately? So no, I did wholeheartedly disagree with that.
He humbled a lot of women that were haughty, that just out of their minds with their expectations.
Yeah. Again, problematic. Humbling women is not a man's job. Sorry. Because who cares? He didn't need to tell any overweight woman that she looked like a fucking linebacker. That didn't help. It just gave men the fodder they needed to just degrade and disrespect women that they didn't find physically attractive. That's all he did. Because those women don't pose a threat to men, right? If she's unattractive to you, you're not going to deal with her. She hurting herself. She's not, because somebody like it. So it didn't matter. He didn't need to do that. You like that though. Men like him, this man too, like dudes like this, like that be like, oh, I mean, he wasn't all bad. Like, you guys are part of the You're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. You got to stop.
He made being the plumber, being the hard worker, being the construction worker cool again, because around the time scammers was cool, rappers was cool. All
Rappers and scammers will always be cool to a certain demographic of women. Rappers and scammers will always be cool to a certain demographic of women. Period. Strippers will always be cool to a certain demographic of men. No doubt about it. But those jobs you just named are jobs that there are way more plumbers than there are rappers and scammers put together. There are more plumbers than there are scammers and rappers put together. You know what I mean? Like, women already like those men. This is another lie, another weird take. Like Kevin Samuels broke. He didn't. No, this is not right.
like everything outlandish that just flexed the lifestyle was cool. But with all that good he was doing more bad to marriages in general, in my opinion. Jesus calls us to love our wives as Christ loved the church. If you take Kevin Samuel's model on how to love your wife and love your woman, etc., you'll be legalistic with it. And Jesus wasn't legalistic with the church. Jesus washed the church with his word, with him. Jesus fed the church, for he is the bread of life. Jesus led the church. It's still
I'm sorry, y'all. I don't care about the religious talk. You guys know me. I'm gonna cut it short on that one. But yeah, I think we got through the parts we need to get through. But I mean, you got to pick a side, brother. I don't. If it's bad, and the thing that men need to understand is if it's bad for marriages, it's bad for dating, because dating is a microcosm of a marriage. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just a mini version of a marriage. That's all it is. But dating is very similar. So yeah, I don't know. I disagree.